Okay, so today we're going to cover Chapter 8, Section 2. Today we're going to learn the law of cosines. So again, it's a formula that we're going to be plugging in the numbers for. So the standard form, when you're given side angle side, so two sides and the included angle, it's not the ASS scenario, it'll be the angle that's included. So for example, let's say I gave you angle A is 25, side B is 10, and side C, let's say it's 20. So if I draw my triangle, and again, it doesn't matter where you put the A, B, and C, just to show you the scenario here, 25 is here, little b, remember, is across from angle B, and little c would be up here. Notice it is the two sides that are forming this angle, so this is why it's the included angle side scenario, and we would be using law of cosines. When it's the ASS or the SSA, then you use law of sines. So what they're doing here is, these are the basic formulas that you memorize. This bottom one down here is when you're given all three sides, and all they've done is rearranged these and solved them for the angle, the cosine. So really, you're just memorizing these. If you want to memorize the alternate form, then that's what's down there at the bottom. The main thing to remember, when you're doing side, you have to find the largest angle first. And the way that you can tell which angle is going to be the largest is the largest angle is always across from the biggest side. So for example, if I gave you a side scenario where let's say A is 10, B is 20, and C is 30, the largest angle is going to be across from the largest side, so I would be finding angle C first. So that's what's going to be important here when you're going through and using these formulas. So my first example, notice I'm giving three sides. They're all feet. Remember, whenever you're given an angle, it's going to have the degree symbol. So this is the side scenario. So I need to figure out which one of these sides is the biggest number. And my biggest side, or the biggest number I see here, is the 19. This is the biggest side. So angle B is going to be the largest angle because it's across from the biggest side. So I need to find this angle first. You always have to find the largest angle first. So again, I can't stress enough to practice with your calculators. So because some of these you're multiplying and your calculators are going to follow order of operations, and sometimes you may have to put parentheses. So since I'm finding angle B first, the formula I'm going to be filling in is going to be the cosine of B is equal to A squared plus C squared minus B squared, all divided by 2 times A times C. So I'm just going to plug in my numbers. Remember, when we're looking for an angle measure, we do the inverse. So I'm going to fill this in. My A was 8. My C is 14. My B is 19. And then in the denominator, 2 times A times C. And this is cosine B equals. So now I need to figure out what all this is. You don't necessarily have to show me that it's 64 plus 196 minus 361. If you like to do all this, you can. And then you would get 224. And then now I'm going to combine all of that. So cosine of B is equal to negative 101 over 224. I need to divide this, and this is where I'm going to do the inverse. So right now this ends up being negative 0.45089287. So I'm going to be doing cosine -1 with this decimal, and then once you do that, you find out that angle B is equal to 116.80 degrees. Now that we found the first angle, the largest angle, next we're going to find the next angle, and we're going to use law of sines. You could technically use another law of cosines, but the law of sines is a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead now. When we have the side angle side scenario, in my second step, what I need to do is find the smaller of the two angles that are left. So if you just want to stay consistent and then always in step 2, find the smaller of the two angles that are left, it might make things easier. So this was step 1. Find the largest angle first. Step 2, I'm going to find, and again, it doesn't matter if you find A or C here, but I'm going to find the smaller or the smallest angle. And my smallest side is A. So I'm going to find angle A next. So I'm going to be doing law of sines to find my next angle. So let me go ahead and set up my proportion. So I'm going to be doing A over the sine of A is equal to, and I just found angle B, so B over the sine of B. So I'm going to fill it in. I know side length A is 8. I do not know angle A yet, and side length B was given to me. And then over the angle I just found, the 116.8. And now I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply diagonally the sine of A times 19, and then 8 times the sine of 116.8. So now I get the sine of A times 19 equals 8 times the sine of 116.8. I'm dividing both sides by 19. Remember again, we are looking for an angle measure, so we're going to need to do inverse here. So once I divide, I get sine A equals 0.375825678. I'm going to do inverse because I'm looking for an angle. Put that same decimal. And again, you can just use your answer button to get it back in your calculator. And then once I hit enter, angle A is 22.08 degrees. And now to find the last angle, step 3, I'm going to use my triangle sum. So I'm going to add the two angles I have. So I'm going to go ahead, if you want to just do 180 and then minus the two angles you just got and just do it all together. Or you could have added these two and then subtract that from 180. Once you do this, you should get 41.12 degrees. So now I have completed my triangle. I have found angle A. So this is angle C. Angle A was 22.08 degrees. Angle B, 116.80 degrees. Angle C I just found, 41.12. And then side A, side B, these were all given to me from the beginning. Always label your work so you don't forget, so you don't put the wrong thing in the wrong proportion. Especially if you ever get this on a standardized test, and let's say the multiple choice answers have, maybe they put angle A as the 41.12. So just make sure that you're looking for, the right things that match when you do this on a standardized test. This one, the law of cosines does not produce a second triangle. You just all do all of this calculation one time. So the first step, when it's side, 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 is use law of cosines to find the biggest angle first. Then step 2, we use law of sines to find the smallest angle. And then the third step is just to use the triangle sum. So the next one, again, let me go ahead and give myself a visual here. And again, it doesn't matter how you draw it. A, B, C here. They gave me angle A. They gave me little b, it's 9. They gave me little c, it's 12. So you can see now that you have the side, angle, side scenario. And for this one, my first step, so step number 1, is to find the missing side of the angle that's given. Okay, so they gave me angle A, so I'm going to be finding side A. So again, if it helps you to go ahead and set up what you're looking for, I had angle A, and then I had B and C. All right, so what I'm looking for first is this missing side of the angle that's given to me. That's my first step. And I'm using law of cosines. So the formula I'm using is, because I'm looking for side A, I'm doing A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine A. So now I just fill in my numbers. My B was 9. So square it. C is 12, square it. And then now multiply. 2 times 9 times 12 times the cosine of 25. Now, what's important here is that you play around with your calculator, because this whole quantity here is being multiplied. So be very careful when you do this. If you prefer to go ahead and square the 9 or the B and the C first, and add them first, and then do all of this multiplication here, and then get that number, or maybe even just multiply the 2, the 9, and the 12, and that'll give you 216 times the cosine of 25, and then maybe go and multiply this, and then subtract it from the 225. This is going to give you 195.762482. Once you subtract it, you're going to get 29.237518. I don't want A squared, I want A, so I got to square root that. So then A is equal to 5.4071782, rounded to the hundredths place, 5.41 meters. So again, this can be tricky. Just make sure that you're understanding how to use your calculator. And honestly, for this, you just need a scientific. You don't necessarily need your graphing calculator. Yes. This is step number 1, to find the missing side of the angle that was given. That's only finding one piece. So this is the 5.41 centimeters. Step number 2, this is where I want to try to stay consistent. And even with the side scenario, technically the step 2 doesn't matter in the side, but this one it matters. You have to find the smaller of the 2 angles left. So this is where, if you want to find the smaller angle in the other scenario, do it and then just stay consistent. So find the smaller of the 2 angles that are left. And in this case, I look at my sides and I can see that the next angle that I need to find is going to be angle B. Because if I look at my sides B and C, 9 is smaller than 12 of the given. Okay, then step 3, I'm just going to use my triangle sum after I find that second angle. All right, so for step 2, so this was step 1. Step 2, now I use law of sines again. So I'm going to use the given, so this A and the angle, the side I just found, so sine of A equals, and now I'm finding the smaller angle, so I'm doing B, and I'm going to fill it in. So side length A I just found, and then the sine of 25. They gave me side B, and I'm trying to find angle B. So let me go ahead. Now, I believe you may need to leave this long number right here and put this here when you do the WebAssign. Maybe the first time you try it, you could try the rounded number, but I'm pretty sure you're going to need to put the whole long number in your calculator when you do this law of cosines for WebAssign, so it doesn't get marked wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. I get sine of B times the 5.4071782 equals the sine of 25 times 9. Divide it by this long decimal, 5.4071782, and then sine of B. And again, I'm looking for an angle measure. So once I multiply and divide, I get 0.703429404. And then I'm looking for an angle, so it's inverse with that long decimal. And then angle B, rounded to the hundredths place, 44.70. This is degrees. And now step 3, I use my triangle sum. So if you just want to do 180 and then subtract the two angles, you adjust the one that was given plus the one you just found. And then once you do that subtraction, 110.30 degrees. So now I have found this is my last angle, and this is angle C. So I just found everything I needed. So B was 110.30, and B was 44.7 or 44.70. And then always remember to put the degree symbol so you know you're not dealing with radians. So that's example 2. So example 3, notice this time, these are all centimeters, so these are all side lengths. So this is the side, side, side scenario. So let's write down the steps we need to follow. So step number 1, I need to find the largest angle first. So my largest angle, if I look at the sides, my largest angle in this particular problem, I'm going to be looking for angle C first. Then step number 2, I'm going to find the smallest angle just to stay consistent. Technically here it doesn't matter, so I'm going to find the smallest angle next. So in this case, my smallest angle, yes. So then in this particular case, it's going to be angle A. And then the third step is just using the triangle sum. So let's go ahead and do this. So because my largest side is the C, it's 12, I'm going to be using this formula. The cosine of C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared, all divided by 2 times A times B. I'm going to fill it in. Cosine of C is equal to 6 squared plus 8 squared minus 12 squared, 2 times 6 times 8. Cosine of C, I'm going to multiply those, 36, 64, 144, all divided by, and I'll go ahead and multiply 2 times 6, 12, times 8, 96. So now I actually have to add and subtract the numerator, and this gives me negative 44 over 96. I now need to divide negative 44 by 96, and I get the cosine of C is equal to negative 0.458, and then it's 3 repeating. Again, I'm looking for an angle measure, so I'm going to be doing cosine negative 1, and then I put in negative 0.4583 repeating, hit enter, and angle C is equal to 117.2799, so rounded to the hundreds place, 0.28. So that is my largest angle. Now I'm going to find the smallest angle. All right, so then the next one, if I wanted to find the smallest angle next, so this was step 1. Step 2, I'm going to use that angle I just found, and my smallest angle is A. So I'm going to be doing sine A over the sine of A, and then C over the sine of C. Technically, if you find B, you're going to get it right on this scenario. What's important with the side is that you find the biggest angle first. Technically, it doesn't matter what you find second, but in the side angle side scenario, it matters. So let's go ahead and fill it in. So I have side A is 6. I don't know angle A, so I'm going to put it in as sine of A, and then 12 over the angle I just found. And now I'm going to cross multiply. And I end up with the sine of A times 12 is equal to 6 times the sine of 117.28, divide by 12, and the sine of A is equal to 0.44438863887, and then do the inverse, and 0.44438863887, and angle A, rounded to the hundreds place, 26.38 degrees. And then step 3, triangle sum, 180, I'll minus the angle I just found, plus the first one I found, the 117.28. Once I subtract all of this, my last missing angle, 36.34 degrees. So my triangle is now complete. I found the 3 angles, and this was angle B, and I started out by having all 3 sides. All right, so again, if you want to see what you've got here, because again, on the quiz, I'm not going to tell you what scenario this is. This could be ASS or SSA. So this is where it's important that you draw it so you know, are you doing the ambiguous case or are you using law of cosines? So draw it, A, B, C here, and then angle A is 80, side B is 16, side C is 12, and you can see that you have a side, an angle, and a side. The 2 sides are forming that. So this is the SAS scenario, not the SSA. So again, on the quiz, I don't tell you what you're using. I just give you 3 pieces of information, and then you got to figure out, what do I do? So now let's go ahead. Let's write down the steps that we need to follow. So what we're going to do first, when it's side angle side, is we need to find the side that's across from the angle that's given. And the angle that was given is A, so I'm finding little a first. Step B, or step 2, I need to find the smallest. This is where it's important that you find the smallest angle first. And in this particular scenario, the smallest of the 2 angles that remains is going to be angle C, because it's across from the 12. 12 is smaller than 16. And then lastly, step 3 is going to be triangle sum. So let me go ahead and set up my law of cosines to find side A. So I'm using a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times the cosine of A. Gonna fill it in. Solving for side A, side B was 16, C was 12, and 2 times 16 times 12 times the cosine of 80. And again, remember, this whole quantity is being multiplied. So you can do 16 squared, 256, 144, minus, and if you want to multiply, I like to multiply these 3 first, get 384, and then multiply it by the cosine of 80, or you could multiply it all together. Again, practice, practice, practice with your calculator. So this all becomes 66.68090022. I'm going to add these two together, and I get 400. And then when I subtract, I get 333.3190998. Again, I don't want a squared, I want a, so square root it, and a, 18.26 meters. Next, I'm going to work on finding my smallest angle. So this was step 1. Step 2, I'm finding the smallest angle, which is angle C. So I'm going to take A over sine A and C over the sine of C. So I just found A. It's the 18.26 over 80, which was the angle given to me. And then C is 12, but I don't know angle C. Going to cross multiply. So the sine of C times the 18.26. Now, again, you may need to leave this really long number that you got here. This was rounded. Again, just be careful when you're doing the WebAssign in case they want you not to use rounded numbers. And then now we'll multiply sine of 80 times 12, divide by 18.26. And I get the sine of C equals, and once I divide, multiply and divide, 0.647190199. I'm looking for an angle, so I'm doing inverse. And then once I do this, angle C is equal to 40.33. Now for step 3, triangle sum. So I'm going to take 180, subtract the angle I just found, as well as the angle from the beginning. Once I subtract all those, I get 59.67 degrees, and this is angle B. So I needed to find the 2 angles and the other missing side. Okay, so this is Heron's area formula. You're going to use this formula when you're given all 3 sides. So when you have side, side, side. So what you're going to do here is you need to find the value of S. So what you're going to do is you're going to add the 3 sides they give you and divide it by 2. And then once you get the S, you can put it here, here, and here, and then subtract each one of the sides and then square root it. So let's go ahead and try an example. So again, I'm going to be using my formula. So I need to find the value of S first. So remember, it's A plus B plus C, divide by 2. So my A is 43, my B is 53, my C is 72, and then divide it by 2. Once I do all of that, I get 168, divide that by 2, and my side, or my value of S, is 84. Now I plug it into the formula. So again, this is area, that's what the capital A represents. So remember, it's S times S minus A, S minus B, S minus C. And this is all under the square root symbol. So let's plug in our numbers. 84, 84 minus 43, 84 minus 53, 84 minus 72. And this is all under the radical. So again, just be careful, play with your calculator. So it's 84 times 41 times 31 times 12. So you're multiplying these four numbers, and then you're going to square root it. So 1281168 is the product. Once you square root it, 1131 rounded to the hundreds place, 0.89, and it's meters squared.